Welcome, age of vintage society. A warm, reliable and likeable lead of features and TV beginning in the 1950s, Vera Miles got a prominent start, but rarely seemed to get the roles her talent merited. Why was Vera Miles Hitchcock's replacement for Grace Kelly? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Vera Miles, Hitchcock blonde with brains. A warm, reliable and likeable lead of features and TV beginning in the 1950s, Vera Miles got a prominent start but rarely seemed to get the roles her talent merited. An attractive, composed woman who worked as a model after placing third in the 1948 Miss America contest, she broke into films in 1951. Although her first leads were in modest films, her earnest, outdoorsy heroines suited her well for The Rose Bowl Story and Jacques Tournier's stylish Wichita. She also kept busy in TV anthologies, where she first worked with the directors who helmed her most important films. John Ford directed Miles in Rookie of the Year, an episode of Screen Directors Playhouse, which led him to cast her as an outspoken frontierswoman in his classic The Searchers. Hitchcock, meanwhile, liked her work in Revenge on his Alfred Hitchcock Presents, so much that he put her under personal contract. Vera Miles was beautiful, Vera Miles was talented, Vera Miles was not to be messed with. The only reason why Vera Miles never became a household name is because the man that intended to make her such, Alfred Hitchcock, demanded her complete loyalty and admiration. Unlike other Hitchcock blondes, however, Vera didn't let him to control her whole life. That is, not in the copious amounts he piled onto his other actresses with impunity. If you mention Vera Miles today, most people will need context to remember this blonde beauty. That comes in one tidy 6-letter word: psycho. Vera played Marion Crane's Janet Leigh concerned sister, who helps track down her killer in easily one of the most shocking film reveals of all time. The role is iconic today, but back in the day it was a thankless role for an actress who was a star in her own right. Vera was simply fulfilling her contractual obligation to Hitchcock, who no doubt cast her as a way to rub salt in any wounds left over from their meteoric fallout. Ironic then how it is the role that Vera is best remembered for to this day. Vera came to attention in John Ford's The Searchers and was a minor revelation in the movie. But again, it wasn't a major role that would jettison Vera to stardom. Those opportunities were to come, however, after Hitchcock saw some early footage of the movie and likened the statuesque blonde with a strong constitution and a magnetic screen presence to his ideal of a leading lady. She was born Vera June Ralston in Boise City, Oklahoma on August 23, 1929. She was crowned Miss Kansas in 1948. She went on to become the third runner-up in the Miss America pageant. At the pageant, she was signed to a contract with RKO and went to Hollywood, where Howard Hughes sent her to acting classes. An employee of Hughes, Bob Miles, picked her up each morning to take her to class, and they began dating. Later that year, Bob Miles would become her first husband. She used her first husband's name, Miles, because an active film actress already went by the name Vera Ralston. Miles eventually was put under contract at various studios. She once recalled, "I was dropped by the best studios in town." By 1952 she began getting better roles, and her first credited role came in The Rose Bowl Story. 2 years after landing the role, she divorced Bob Miles. In 1955 she was cast opposite Gordon Scott in Tarzan's Hidden Jungle, where she played Tarzan's love interest. She married Scott, her co-star, in 1956, and she stayed married to him until 1960. In addition to getting married a second time, 1956 was a big year for Miles's career as she starred in The Searchers, a John Wayne western, which is considered one of the greatest films ever made, and which was named the greatest American western by the American Film Institute in 2008. In the film she played Laurie Jorgensen, Jeffrey Hunter's love interest. She also appeared in Wichita, 23 Paces to Baker Street, and The Wrong Man, opposite Henry Fonda. This was Hitchcock and Vera's first movie together. She was fantastic opposite Henry Fonda in the documentary-style suspense movie, but it was only to be a testing ground for Hitchcock to groom his bombshell protégé into the kind of movie star he envisioned for all his female leads. Blonde, virtuous, always standing by her man, and ultimately conforming to his egomaniacal will. The fact that Hitchcock misjudged Vera Miles so badly in regards to his domineering ways is curious. Of course, she was an actress with great looks and talent, but she also had brains and willpower to resist his creepy advances and perverted sense of entitlement. She played Rose Balestrero, the wife of Manny Balestrero. This film, based on the true story of a man who was wrongfully accused of a crime, was Hitchcock's only film based on a true story. This was not the first time Hitchcock had directed Miles, as she appeared in the role of a new bride in the pilot episode of the television series Alfred Hitchcock Presents. In 1957 she signed a personal contract with Hitchcock and was publicised as Hitchcock's successor to Grace Kelly. Their professional relationship would deteriorate from here on. Hitchcock designed Vertigo with Miles in mind, but Miles got pregnant and the role went to Kim Novak. He then cast Miles in the role of Lila Crane in Psycho. As the sister of Marion Crane, who was killed in the shower scene, this role became the role that Miles was best known for. It was not the final time she would work with Hitchcock, even though she had told him in 1960 that she would not appear in the 4 pictures that remained in their 7-year contract. She then appeared in 2 episodes of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. Eventually in 1983 Miles reprised the role of Lila Crane in Psycho 2. Kim Novak's part was originally intended for future Psycho star Vera Miles. Hitchcock's propensity for favouring certain actresses is well documented, and it's no surprise that Kim Novak wasn't his first choice to play Judy Madeleine. After his favourite lead actress Grace Kelly married Prince Rainier of Monaco in 1956 and retired from acting, Hitchcock had picked up on Vera Miles and signed the 25-year-old actress to a 5-year contract. After trying her out in Revenge, the pilot for his new TV series, Hitchcock was duly impressed and cast in 1956's The Wrong Man, which won her acclaim. The lead in Vertigo was intended to fall to Miles, but she became pregnant not long before filming was due to begin, and Hitchcock elected to go with Novak instead. In fact, by the time Novak had finished other commitments, Miles was available again, but Hitchcock, perhaps a little prideful, stuck with his new ingenue. He later told that she became pregnant just before the part that was going to turn her into a star. After that, I lost interest. I couldn't get the rhythm going with her again. Despite that, the director did show a little loyalty, casting Miles in her best remembered role, Lila Crane in Psycho in 1960. Hitchcock never spared any expense when it came to his leading ladies, and Vera was no exception. Though she was married by 1958 to Gordon Scott and already had 2 children, Hitchcock still considered her his property. He obsessed over her looks both in public and private, and determined that she should only ever be clothed in white, black or grey tones. This was recorded for posterity in the production stills for Vertigo, in which Vera was to star opposite Jimmy Stewart. For anyone who has ever seen the movie, the role required Vera to be the focus of an obsessive man who would ultimately lead to her death. A smart woman who didn't need to be told how autobiographical the material was for Hitchcock, Vera either consciously or unconsciously decided to become pregnant with her 3rd child before production could begin. Enraged, Hitch had to recast the role, finding Kim Novak at the last moment. I have to confess that Kim Novak is one of the best casting choices in all of film when it came to Vertigo. I can't imagine anyone else playing the role so well, and that includes Vera. Funny how everything worked out for the best, but Hitch would never forgive Vera for her transgression. When it came time for Vera to fulfill her contract with Hitchcock, it was for easily his most iconic and successful film. What I love is that Vera considered the role a walk-on part to get Hitch the hell out of her life. Still very beautiful and at the top of her game, she underplayed the role brilliantly, making her scream at the end when she finds Mother in the fruit cellar all the more horrifying. Vera is perfect casting and will always be remembered for this reaction. Once again, fate played a hand in making film history. It would be the last time actress and director would work together, and both of them can thank each other for cementing their places in cinematic and pop culture history. Interestingly enough, Vera's blonde locks were already shorn for another production when Hitchcock beckoned her to play in Psycho. She had to wear a wig in addition to frumpy clothes that Hitchcock no doubt tried to humiliate the actress with. But true to form, Vera rose above petty grievances and turned in a pivotal performance, grounding the second half of the film after Janet Leigh's untimely departure, aka the famous shower scene. Vera Miles' roles in Hollywood productions took their natural course for actresses of a certain age, though she would continue to work in smaller pictures and television over the ensuing decades. But what I love about Vera as much as her beauty and talent is her strong spirit and ability to take and ultimately leave Tinseltown on her own terms. She never regretted losing the role in Vertigo because she said she got a son out of the bargain. She was too grounded, too smart, it seemed, to take the kind of crap megalomaniacal directors like Hitchcock required their actresses take in return for becoming immortal on film. But in her own way, Vera Miles did become immortal, albeit in a smaller role. That was her way of fulfilling a contract to a man that gave her the creeps. And now that everyone knows, thanks to Tippi Hedren, another Hitchcock blonde, just how creepy and abusive Hitch was to his talent, it seems like a very smart proposition indeed for Vera to have vamoosed when she did from the director's grasp. Vera is a testament to women who work on their own terms and take their lumps, succeeding in the face of adversity in an old boys' club that exists to this day. Throughout her acting career she had many television appearances, including Gunsmoke, Wagon Train, Laramie and The Twilight Zone. She co-starred in the first episode of The Fugitive, the pilot of the series I Spy. She had a supporting role in 3 episodes of My Three Sons. Her television appearances continued throughout the 80s. In the 80s she was in The Love Boat and Murder, She Wrote, and she was in television films throughout her career. She had additional film appearances in the 80s with roles in the movies The Initiation and Into the Night. Her final film role came with James Belushi in Separate Lives, after which she retired in Palm Desert, California. She did not remarry after her divorce from her 4th husband, Robert Jones, who she married in 1973 and divorced in 1975. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Vera Miles?